Hello and welcome to the Regista Football Podcast. My name is Jack and welcome to episode 22, actually, which is kind of nuts. 22
Jeez,
of these episodes, Ben.
we have a full two teams lined up against each other with that numbers.
Yeah, we actually do. That's pretty funny to put it that way, actually. Today we are obviously, if you can't understand, you can't hear yet, we're in a place where you partake in libations. We are in North Park Beer Company again. I think this is our third episode here.
This is our third episode. I suggested this for a very specific reason. I was hoping you'd figure out why I suggested this.
Why?
The first one we did was here, and it was after a Bayern game.
Hmm.
The second we did was here again. It was after another Bayern game, and so I was like, might as well do another Bayern game.
The difference is Liverpool didn't lose to Forest; they lost to United this time. So fuck that, absolutely fuck that. Let's get over what we're going to cover today, then. So we're going to look at the current state of the Premier League. Since our last episode, quite a few things have changed. Some crazy shit has happened, so we're going to go over some of that. Talk to you about how the table looks, and then after that, we're going to get into what's happened most recently, which is the UEFA Champions League. The final is set. Both semi-finals have been played and to their conclusion. So we're going to cover Arsenal versus Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich versus Paris Saint-Germain. Right. Let's get into the Premier League then. So my good buddy Ben is going to be pretty happy with what we have to discuss first. Man City drop points versus Everton, giving Arsenal a huge advantage. Firstly, did you expect that? And secondly, I know your answer is going to be no. So how do you feel?
Yeah, I was not expecting that. It was funny because I didn't really expect to watch the match either. I knew it was going to be happening, and in the last few weeks, I've been like, you know what, don't get stuck into watching
Yeah,
a City match. It's not good for your mental health. It was also on a Monday, like before my lunch break, so I
weird
was
time.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
it was a weird time for me. And then I saw it was like 1-0, and then I was getting into lunch, and I was like, you know what, I might as well sit down and watch this.
yeah,
I'll bring my laptop out to the TV and like watch there instead of in the office. And then, like, as it was happening at the beginning, I was like, "This is kind of crazy. This could
yeah.
happen." And after Barry had his brace,
It's mad.
it was insane. I honestly did not know what to do, and I got really really happy. And then I remembered the first ever game I ever watched of the Premier League in person was at Goodison,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was Everton versus City. So it was kind
It's
of
pretty
like,
unique.
yeah, it was an interesting game. We're just like, let's go watch this match.
Full circle moment.
Yeah, so it was a full circle. So I was watching Everton do this thing, and I was like, "Wow, this is kind of crazy." I mean, it's a crazy result. I don't think that settles the league by any means at all. Like, yes, I'm very happy for it. It does give Arsenal a little breathing space, but Arsenal still has work to do.
My actual opinion is that I think this weekend is when it's decided.
Yeah,
Um, Arsenal, if Arsenal win against West Ham, for me, the league is finished. If they drop points in any way, then it's absolutely on. West Ham, Burnley, Palace, Arsenal's next three opponents in the Premier League. For me, like Burnley, obviously relegated already.
yeah,
Palace, you play them 3 days away from their Conference League final.
mhm,
You have a big advantage here, man. Like this, they've given you a big boost,
yeah,
City, by dropping points in that game. It's funny because did you see the statistics of like how many games that Everton haven't won at home against Man City before that?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
crazy to me. Like I was watching it unfold, and it's kind of like, do you remember in the last episode when I like slated Tiano Barry for like 5 minutes?
Yeah,
Shut me up, didn't he?
yeah,
Like getting that brace, the wrath, like the end of the game was pure chaos.
that was, yeah.
And like you could see City couldn't manage the chaos.
Mhm.
I think Rodri would have made a gigantic difference in that game. And it goes to show, man, like if you lose players of that caliber, you can't just second man up with
Yeah,
that type of situation. So City are against it. I think they've got Bournemouth this weekend, which is not an easy game.
mhm.
Actually, it might be
I think it's Brentford.
Brentford, Palace, Bournemouth, Villa in it.
Yep,
Brentford's not an easy game either. They're going to
yeah,
be competing for that Champions League spot.
yep,
If Crystal Palace win the Conference League, which it looks like they will, and if Villa win the Europa League, they the Premier League secures a sixth Champions League spot, which is kind of ridiculous.
it's insane.
But Bournemouth and Brentford are going to be fine for that. So it means those two games actually mean something.
Yeah,
Yeah, really big at the top of the table. Arsenal given a big boost. City need a lifeline. Can
yeah.
it happen this weekend? We will find out. We will find out. UEFA Champions League then. So Manchester United defeated Liverpool last weekend. That we actually watched that game together, Ben. The game was, at least for me, definitely a tale of two halves. We were a bit I'm not gonna say a bit. We were quite crap in the first half. They hurt us early, really quickly. By 15 minutes, we're 2-0 down. I remember saying to Rodney, the bartender, this could get ugly.
Yeah.
It didn't get ugly. It actually got a bit fantastic.
Yeah.
After the second half, when I'm not gonna say we're gifted 2 goals, but definitely gifted 1 goal. United at the end of the game, Kobe Mino again, by the way, who hasn't scored for the whole of the season. And of course, it's that fucking prick who ends
Of
up
course.
putting it in the net. 3-2 at Old Trafford. First time they've done a double over Liverpool for 10 years. Is that a changing of the guard? Let's fucking hope not.
I don't think it is. Not at all.
For me, Liverpool mathematically secure Champions League with another win. We play Chelsea this weekend. I'm not going to talk about that. I think at this stage, Liverpool's goal is just to put points on the board, secure Champions League, and move on to next season. Chelsea have died a death, Ben. Died a death. Talk to me more about the death.
It's kind of insane that a few months ago people were saying Chelsea is going to be challenging,
Mm.
and that just shows you like what it actually means to challenge in this
Yeah,
league.
yeah.
It changes so quickly. Your games happen so fast. You gain and lose form
So
quickly.
quick.
And also they've just been like unstable, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't have they don't actually. I don't know who their first team is anymore.
Neither do I.
There's a
And
couple people who
that's
I
a
know
huge
who's going to
problem.
show up. Yeah, that is a huge problem. And I think like that kind of tells like on the scoreline, like they were secured in at least
Yeah.
the UCL places. We're thinking like, yeah, they'll definitely be like fourth or fifth, right?
Yeah.
And we're really thinking for a while they're like, oh man, what if Villa doesn't make it this year?
Yeah.
But like 6 games in a row is insane for a
It's
team.
absurd,
caliber. Yeah.
Especially like, let's not beat around the bush here. They've spent a bunch of fucking money.
Yeah.
And if you look at like the quality they have to come off of their bench even,
Yeah.
it's dross.
Yeah.
It's shit. With all due respect to Jamie Gittins and Garnacho, like in what world are you buying both of those for combined basically £100 million?
Insane.
And you can see the quality across their forward line. Without João Pedro this year, they're cooked.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They have nothing in the attack. Like maybe Enzo's done something. Neto's been fast on the wing. That's about
Yeah.
it. Hasn't really produced much. But yeah, and also defensively, I saw this great stat where in week 19 or something like that, Sanchez and Raya were both at 8 clean sheets.
Yeah.
Right now, how many clean sheets does Sanchez have?
I'm going to say 8.
9.
9. Wow.
And Raya just got the Golden
16?
Glove. 17.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking Jeremiah. Yeah, they're 9th right now, Chelsea. I'm playing Liverpool this weekend, unfortunately, at 4:30 a.m. I have 4:30 a.m. back to back now.
Oh, that's rough.
Really big game. I mean, it's actually not, but I would like it to be a big game. Liverpool just need to get a win. Chelsea are desperate for a win. Let's see how that one goes. Villa, on the other hand, they've kind of been dragged back into it a little bit. There's 3 games to go. Bournemouth are on their coattails to a degree. 6 points behind them. Villa do play Liverpool and City in the last 5, which is a chance for both Bournemouth and Brentford to get some ground on them. You could tell how much Villa care about the Premier League based on what they do last weekend against Tottenham. And speaking of Tottenham, let's get into relegation then. So Spurs, huge win against Aston Villa this past weekend here. Again, we watched that game with our Tottenham friend Tyler, obviously hoping for something specific. That obviously didn't happen.
Yeah.
Credit to Tottenham though, like that's the best I've seen them play for weeks. A bunch of intensity, like way more intensity than Villa.
Yeah.
And quality moments when they needed them.
I mean, do we call it new manager bounce? Like, is it deserve you
tough.
coming in? And
I think he's just
doing
actually a
something?
good manager.
Yeah, he might actually know people and know what to do and how
Yeah.
to motivate them. Yeah, two back-to-back wins for Tottenham. No one really wants to see that, but that's what's happening. Yeah, and then you have West Ham right below, only a point off. West Ham, man, we thought they were going to win that game, but this couldn't hold.
No, West Ham, excuse my pun, get hammered by Brentford on the weekend, 3-0.
Yeah.
That's actually a bit of a disgusting result for West Ham.
Absolutely.
To get beat like that when you're in desperate need of victory.
Yeah.
And that puts them in serious trouble. But at least for me now, they have some really tough fixtures to finish out the season. I mean, they've got you next. No one fancies them against Arsenal, especially away from home. They're gonna have to turn it around pretty fast. Otherwise, Tottenham are going to be safe, and West Ham are going to get relegated.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like an overview of the Premier League. Lots of things have happened. I'm sure we'll get back into the Premier League reviews at some point, but I wanted to focus on the Champions League because the first round of ties were interesting. The second rounds of ties were also interesting, but this is also the first final Arsenal make in 20 years. Ben.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Arsenal is the team that has the most Champions League games without ever winning the Champions
Yeah,
League. And then the team that comes next is Atletico
Atletico.
Madrid,
Yeah, it's mad.
which is pretty wild. Should we get into it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, let's do
let's
it.
cover the game. So.
Yeah, Arsenal won this week 1-0 playing at home aggregate. I think that's kind of what I would have predicted would have been an aggregate score overall. Maybe 3-2, maybe a few more goals in there, but
Yeah,
that seems like what those two teams would have done. That's an Arteta and Simeone
yeah,
ball kind of result.
yeah. I would say so. I would argue that the way I always look at Arsenal is Arsenal don't just score one goal because they can't score more. They score one goal because that's all they need to score.
Yeah.
Especially in this type of game. Obviously get into it, but I think like overall the what happened and what unfolds actually makes quite a lot of sense based on the qualities of the two teams. Mexico kind of don't have much for you really on the day at all, to be honest.
Yeah,
Get,
totally.
yeah, I feel like it was such an odd game actually, because like, at least from my perspective, like I think Atletico obviously knew they had to go for it, especially after you score the first goal. And we'll get into all of that. But I feel like even with the understanding that they know they had to go for it, they just had a complete lack of quality offensively. I think that's coupled by the fact that Arsenal are tremendous defensively.
Yeah,
So they can
absolutely.
make anyone kind of look a bit bad, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah. I think, I mean, like you already kind of said it, like the game overall, like started with a lot of like control, a lot of composed possession, heavy attack that was really generated overall and
Yeah.
regulated, and like a regulated defense from Arsenal, which is something that I haven't seen for a while, was actually surprising and didn't think that was going to happen if I hadn't watched the Fulham game over the weekend.
Yeah.
Like there's something that snapped and clicked in the last couple of weeks
Yeah.
where Arsenal was like, oh, this is how we football.
Yeah.
And then it ended with chaos,
Pure
last
chaos.
ditch efforts. Like it was just Atleti just like going really long for a ball, just like trying for something. Arsenal diabolic dark arts,
Yeah.
like Kepa getting the ball and planting it back
Yeah.
onto the
Yeah.
pitch, like Martinelli getting the ball and throwing it into the stands, like
Yeah.
some really crazy
I
slash funny thing.
I can't deny it though. Like from my perspective, I've been on the end of some Atletico bullshit in my time as a Liverpool fan. I love watching like Simeone on the sidelines going absolutely mental at it.
Yeah.
It's like, how does that medicine taste, Don?
Yeah.
How is that, mate? But
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of covered it perfectly. I think the game started. The game started with Arsenal, obviously in the ascendancy. Obviously because you knew you had to score. You were at home. Beautiful tifo to start the game. Crowd was up for it, to say the least. The goal comes eventually, but I would say overall the goal was coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of sustained pressure on
Yeah.
Atleti. They were trying to get out, forward turnover, Arsenal would recycle and then attack again.
Yeah.
I'd say that was really the trend of the game until you score. Then they know they have to be in the ascendancy.
Yeah.
And I just don't think this Atletico Madrid team are ready to be not ready is kind of, what's the term, condescending.
Yeah.
But they're not set up to be in the ascendancy against a team who are so good off the ball like Arsenal for me.
Yeah, I think I mean we talk about rebuilding phases and like different turns in football, and I think Atleti were at that place a couple years ago,
Yeah.
and they're kind of on the downturn. And Simeone sees that, right? That's why
Yeah.
he's leaving, and he's looking for a new challenge. But yeah, I think overall, like the scoreline fit the game. If you look at the XG, Arsenal was at 1.38, something like that,
Yeah.
and Atleti was like up at a 0.99.
Yeah.
So yeah, could they have maybe put one past Arsenal? Yes. But as you mentioned, Arsenal's defense was just controlling the chaos. And like 1-0 to the Arsenal, like that
Yeah.
is that is a thing because it happens.
Definitely a thing.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think the biggest chance of their game actually wouldn't be registered in XG. And it's that like the cutback to Sorloth,
Yeah.
which was a gross watch, I have to say. It was like a professional footballer getting it stuck under his feet. And it's
Yeah.
like, bro, this is probably the best chance you're going to get in the whole of the game.
Yeah.
It's weird actually because he's been quite prolific this season for Atleti.
When I
But
saw that happen, I it didn't register what happened to me. I thought
yeah,
Gabriel had just a great block. I'm like, whoa, I didn't even see
yeah,
that block.
yeah,
That was so good. And then the replay happened. I was like, mate, like,
it's
oh
mad.
yeah. Yeah, let's get into what the each team was trying to do overall. In possession, Arsenal was really responding overall to what they were facing. So there were rotations from Atletico. Our Atletico's position was basically like a 5-4-1. As soon as you get into the midfield, the breakdown, and to get out of that, they were also forcing Arsenal a bit to play more towards their left. They're
Yeah,
scared of Saka. Saka, as a linking up on that right side, was really big. So it takes Regista and Eze to keep the ball really high up on the left. And then Miles Lewis-Skelly, who over the weekend, we saw him dropping into that pivot six and getting that central position to get out balls. And really, he had Gabriel, he had Saliba if he needed the short ball, and then you actually see Declan Rice coming out as well to receive a ball if
yeah,
necessary. And you had these big triangles, I'd say, and to get in and out of spaces. And with those rotations, it also allowed Saliba sometimes to run up because people aren't expecting Saliba to run up. They expect Declan Rice to run up. And what that actually does, even further up the pitch in possession, is it allows Ben White to then stay higher up.
yes, it does.
One of the huge things that happened in the Bournemouth game was Ben White was so high he couldn't make it back in time. And we even saw it against Fulham where he tripped over
Yeah,
his own feet and got saved. And so because of those kinds of moves, those like rotations really big in possession overall. And then one other thing that Arsenal was doing over and over again, and you could really see their intent was somehow actually getting those overlap runs right. Those
yeah,
inverted runs that you didn't see, or those overlapping runs that you saw in 22, 23, 24, 25,
yeah,
with Ben White going down the wing, and then Saka sending it in or whatever else in the cutback. Like it was actually happening again.
yeah, yeah. I actually the big thing I noticed really when it comes to not not protecting Ben White, maybe to a degree, but kind of not exposing his lack of pace going backwards,
Yeah.
is putting Saliba in those types of rest defense positions. Honestly, I think a lot of Arsenal's overall offensive shape is so intelligent when it comes to the idea of thinking of rest defense. Like if we lose the ball here,
Yeah.
what players are around the ball to win it back quickly or like prevent a counterattack?
Yeah.
And I think Saliba moving higher is good to have a number there,
Yeah.
absolutely, just to bounce off of, but also to protect the ball if it's lost. He is a monster at retaining the ball and getting the ball back.
He's also like he doesn't look fast, but
He's
he is
rapid.
fast. Like
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
one of those tall guys that when he moves, you're like, he's not fast.
yeah,
He's actually running at speed. Yeah.
for sure.
Last thing with Arsenal in defense, like in possession, like Gyökeres is obviously, and I'm going to talk about Gyökeres a lot in this, so we'll get into it. But he actually was like one of those people who was running the channels. We were actually utilizing Gyökeres what we're supposed to be doing. Like there was a period when the game was just back and forth, but then it kind of broke down in the 16th minute. When we had one of our best out balls, and Gyökeres was at the end of it. He was a person who was helping change the tempo when it needed to change. And like we see that happen again late in the half as well.
Yeah, I think what Gyökeres does really well in this game. I mean, to be fair, I think we know what he's good at. He's really good at occupying defenders, but I think something he does really well is like moving across the front line to kind of create passing lanes and stretch Atletico horizontally.
Yeah.
I think he does that incredibly well in this game, and like it really benefits Saka because it stretches that line. It lets him stay like really high and wide, and essentially just giving him a constant outlet to play off.
Yeah.
And I think that really benefits him in this game. And especially like where I think Eze's position in possession is kind of like a halfway house between the two. So it's not just an outlet for Victor Gyökeres to be able to play off, but it's also someone to occupy players around Saka as well.
Yep.
And you've seen multiple times in that first half where Saka manages to get isolation on the right side and go at fullback. So yeah, I think it works really well.
And then in the midfield, you also have Ben White there to do like those bounce passes to get in and out of spaces. So when you do have an overloader, they're trying to overload you bounce pass. And I think the one thing that they now are working a little better on is just switching that play.
Yep.
Trossard's now open because there's like an overload on the right side and getting the ball to them. So
if you later on in the episode, you're going to hear how much I use the word isolation because it is so in vogue in football right now. is the idea of creating an overload on one side and then having a winger almost isolated to create those isolation moments,
Yeah.
1v1 situations. And I think your best guy at that is obviously Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can see that with. I actually think that's also why Calafiori is a better option than I think Nkapie.
Oh,
He's
absolutely.
more
Yeah.
technical. He can get high up on that side, combined with Trossard and
Yeah.
whoever wants to kind of roam in that area. Typically, Declan Rice
Yeah.
takes play over to the left. As long as you can move the ball quickly to the right and he gets those isolation situations, I think that works really well in terms of just overall meta and approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that is like the thing that's been missing a little bit. And it has been coming back a little bit more on
Yeah.
that possession. Out of possession, Arsenal. I mean, they're playing a 4-4-2. That's really how they're dropping back.
It's what you do.
Overall. It's what you do. And that first half. I mean, when you're playing that 4-4-2, you have those wingers drop actually into that four, and Ez is actually staying up a little higher, and it makes sense for me. Like he's a 10. Like you want him to be up there.
Yeah.
With your 9, and so like it feels a bit more accurate on what should be happening rather than like if we had Odegaard in that position, right? He'd be dropping in with Saka staying up front and be more of a, I don't know, 4-5-1.
Yeah, that's actually a really good, like, astute point to make. I think the reason why I would want Eza in a forward line as opposed to someone occupying pivots is because, frankly, he's not the best off the ball defender. It's better to have him in a forward line with, quite frankly, a dog like Victor Gyökeres who will run for days. Yeah, it made perfect sense for me. If he's high and he can deal with like one half of the pitch when they build, Gyökeres could deal with the other half. But the vigilance of the guys behind him is really what's important in that regard. You're not using his defensive ability too much, which is important, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, with that, they weren't really pressing that much
No.
in that first half. Like, I think a big part of that was with the attackers that they have behind them. They fear that counter. Like Griezmann, like the ball sticks to his feet.
It does.
Alvarez is phenomenal, both with pace and with the ball at his feet. And like we did not want to get caught out one on one with either one of those attackers.
Yeah.
So they did kind of absorb a lot of that and turn it over
Yeah.
whenever they could. In the second half, they really absorbed a lot of the pressure, and of course, it's because there was a goal in the first half. I expected that, like you do expect that to happen. Now, did I want Arsenal to get another quick goal at the beginning of the second half? Obviously, but I think like Atleti was coming out fast and hard. There were a lot of balls that were coming up and over the top, and so like Arsenal was biding their time, I would say overall.
Yeah, but I think you knew you were going to get a chance.
Yeah.
Especially once you score, if you look at the momentum charts, it's completely done based on we can continue to probe, get a goal, and then we're happy for them to have a bit of control because we know they can't hurt us easily. And that is genuinely how the game played out. I think Atletico in attack or like in possession, I think Koke is such a big catalyst for them. And I think he does pretty well over the space of the evening. Overall, like from my perspective, I think Arsenal did really well in kind of stopping Atletico do what they do on that right side. With Giuliano Simeone, Alvarez will drift to that right side as well and combined with Griezmann. I thought your left side defended those types of situations very well.
Yeah.
And the problem is whenever Lookman was isolated, he was a fucking disaster. He was terrible in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
He couldn't win a 1v1 to save his life. I saw something you have in the notes there. Apparently, it's not Chukwueze.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like when I was writing my notes, and that was there as like almost a sarcasm for me, right?
Yeah.
Like when I was watching at the beginning of the match, I was like, oh wait, there's the same team who played against Fulham. I was like, what was Chukwueze? Like we're gonna be a bit more cautious than that.
Yeah.
Because it's Lookman, and like I respect Lookman more than I respect Chukwueze, but he did not deserve it. He was worse than Chukwueze in many ways. He just disappeared. I mean, he got subbed off early in the second half as well.
Yeah, like I'd say Koke was like the hub of their possession ultimately.
Yeah.
And I think Arsenal did a really good job of not letting him have a huge amount of time on the ball, like always harrying it, always in his face. And I think Arsenal, in those types of situations, when Koke was trying to play through the lines, he found Griezmann a few times, but the overall structure allowed to mitigate that. Incredibly well. So full credit.
Yeah, like in possession, I felt like Atletico, like in the first half were really more focused on a defensive game
Yeah.
anyways. But when they did go offensive, they were forcing it up the right side because I think what they were trying to do is if they could dispossess on their right side,
Yeah.
they could then switch the ball to the left.
Yeah.
And Alvarez would be out through.
That worked a few times for sure.
Yeah, it did work a few times, but thankfully Arsenal knows how to defend those kind of possessions, and like they would win either aerial duels or they'd win the ball on the ground. There was one moment when Saliba let the ball bounce, and I got really nervous, but then Saliba fainted, got control of the ball again, and got it away from Alvarez.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like because of those areas, getting to the central areas, they would try to switch it around and try to get some shots on target. In the first half, do you know how many shots on target they had? Well, at least shots they had in the first half?
I'm gonna say 4.
2.
Yeah,
They had
terrible.
2 shots in the first half, and all of them were coming from that right side.
Yeah, but you could see kind of like what their intention with that was. Essentially, like if you think about how their left side works, like Ruggeri is essentially playing as their left back, isn't the most offensive player. He sits back essentially to allow Lookman to be super isolated. Marcus Llorente and Pubil on that right side attack with Simeone constantly, trying to essentially exploit where Calafiori's position is on the pitch.
Yeah.
Something that I really noticed is when they were attacking down that side is they were targeting Calafiori's inside shoulder a bunch, trying to get on his blind side. But I think Rice made some pivotal blocks in those types of scenarios.
Yeah.
The way Arsenal orientate themselves to kind of cover half spaces is really, really effective.
Yeah.
Just because of just how much work those inside players put off the ball.
And I think like with that, like Miles Lewis-Skelly played left back all last season.
Yeah.
So he's like the perfect option to just drop back into that position as needed. We basically have 2 left backs playing that position if we
Basically.
So yeah, out of possession, as we mentioned earlier, Atletico was a little higher pressing at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
But like Arsenal was making those rotations, they were able to get the ball out.
Yeah.
Saka would come in centrally. And then eventually he would maybe move up a little higher.
Yeah.
But like it just didn't feel like their game was about getting the ball away from Arsenal at in their own half.
Yeah.
It was more about stopping something on their own side and pressing a counter.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of in the bit of analysis that I wrote down about the game, essentially, for me, Arsenal were pressed in the first phase. They were kind of let to do what they wanted to do in the second phase. And then in the third phase is where they'd be harried again, obviously, because they're closer to goal. I thought the biggest indication for me, I thought they were completely man-to-man in midfield based on what I saw, especially in the first phase. Llorente is a fucking workhorse, man.
Oh, yeah.
He can cover some ground, dude.
Yeah.
But I think, I think this Lewis-Skelly inclusion looks like a bit of a masterstroke from Arsenal.
Yeah.
And I think if you think about it, a few weeks ago where everyone was saying like Zubimendi looks tired, I think Lewis-Skelly is almost like, I'm not going to say the opposite. He's a very different player to Zubimendi. I think he's more of a ball carrier who can make really incisive passes when he needs to.
Yeah.
Really good. And he gave Atletico some issues for a lot of the day there, really.
Yeah, if I think about Miles Lewis-Skelly, he reminds me of like a bulldog, right?
Yeah.
Squat strong, able to get in and out, like could be agile because of how close he is to the ground, but will hold his ground, right?
If he puts his ass on you, you're not getting him off the ball.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just really, really press resistant.
Yeah, very, very much so. Yeah, I think overall, like if you think about the main tactical battle of this game, what I was thinking through was how does Arsenal break this low block while not getting countered by this Atleti offense, right? And mainly how they're doing it is isolation, as you're talking about, right? They're playing these clusters in the wide spaces, mainly on the left side for most of the time. And they were actually able to do better tempo changes and getting the ball to the center.
Yeah.
And once it gets to the center, they either go for a goal if Declan Rice is there, or they try to go out to the other side and create something overall.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Yeah.
I think like from my perspective, think about it logically, right? If you're playing to either create isolation in wide zones or you're playing to create overloads in wide zones, either way, you switch the ball, then you create isolation there. But in the clusters, typically, if you lose the ball in those types of scenarios, the team only have a couple of places they can place the ball versus trying to attack centrally, losing the ball centrally, and then essentially the ball player then can put the ball essentially wherever he wants. So I think the approach from Arsenal made a bunch of sense. How they were approaching attacking in the last phase. And so yeah, really good point.
And then also, I think the other way to kind of counter that was, and I haven't seen this for a while, but Arsenal was moving as a unit.
Yeah,
Right? They're moving as a unit up the pitch, and they're moving as a unit back. And it doesn't mean that you have to be in your position. Someone will cover your position if you're out of your position. The pressing shape when they were up high would then fall back into a 4-4-2 where everyone's back in their position. It's time to reset. You know what you're doing again. You know what your position is, and now you know your role on how to get back up the pitch.
Yeah.
So I think this is a lot what I noticed earlier on in the season. A lot of what people probably really enjoyed who were watching Arsenal earlier in the season. They were blocking shots. They were choking the ball. They're getting it out and then moving it up together as a team. And do they get stuck sometimes and they're trying to figure it out? But like that is what's kind of changed at this point. They have that tempo change in the middle of the pitch in order to actually get the ball up faster.
I also think you just have players to better occupy the middle of the pitch.
Yes.
Something that I've noticed the difference between Eze and Odegaard is Eze isn't dropping deep as frequently, and putting Miles Lewis-Skelly there really means he doesn't have to. So if you play through the lines, you're progressing attacks just faster because he is high up the pitch. He's closer to Gyökeres and Saka in that regard too. So I think, definitely. There was definitely a lot of that, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
Like the ability to progress the ball quicker than you have done in the last few weeks. And not only that, but like Trossard is not a touchline winger. Like Trossard in possession will often drop into those like left half spaces and come to collect the ball. He did a few times, I remember. Like he'll come and carry the ball into the final third. So it's making that 4-2-4 City did. And you could see the adjustments he made in that game to Arteta. And you're seeing him build on that now. And I think Lewis-Skelly is a really nice compliment to that.
Yeah. I think like because we have that space, we have that comfortable space, we're able to kind of like progress the ball a little bit more. But yeah, I want to go into kind of reasons that have decided the game. Made an allusion to this earlier on, and a lot of people have talked about Gyökeres and him just not being the guy. And in the last 2 games, he's kind of showed that he could be the guy. His hold-up play in this game was really good. He was just frustrating the center backs, getting the ball, like receiving the ball, getting it out wide, and then having the support to get it back into the spaces that need to go. Is the things that we've needed from him all season.
Yeah. I'll ask you a question actually, like more of a philosophical question. The best version of Gyökeres, do you want that type of striker? Because what that means to me is you're playing a specific way to cater to him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Not really.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But like, if he can be effective and bang, frankly, then I think any football fan will take it if he can produce.
Yeah.
Like a style in football in general, you know, like if it can be somewhat conservative at times but still produce results, then fine. I'll take it, absolutely. But with Gyökeres, I think to play to his strengths, you have to do something quite specific.
Yeah.
It's typically not the prettiest approach.
It's not even the approach that necessarily works in the Premier League also. That's the other thing.
Well, it's funny though. So I would say like a lot of the meta has transcended to less intentional build-up from the back because of how good pressing structures have become.
Yeah.
And playing long up to someone to help you win it, like in the second and third phase. And Gyökeres is like the archetype for that.
Yeah. But I think the one thing with Gyökeres is he's like, when I think about him, he's the one who runs into space with the ball at his feet. He has 1, maybe 2 touches that gets it to the right location and then he shoots.
Yeah.
But that works really well when you have slower center backs and not as quick recovery. And so that makes, like, in the Premier League, I don't know if that works as often. But in this, like, in the last 2 games, he actually had that kind of hold-up play overall. And that really helped out.
He is very good at that.
Yeah.
He, like, for me, honestly, like, him one-on-one with his back to goal against any centre-back in the league, really in the world, I think he's at an advantage. He's so good at holding the ball up.
Yeah.
It's just about putting players at the right time in and around him.
Yeah.
So he's not required to do all of the other stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
What you want him to do is give the ball off, get into positions to score, kind of like he did against Fulham.
Yeah, exactly.
Having that type of performance. I think like it. Do you know who he really reminds me of? He's like an athletic Olivier Giroud.
Yeah.
The thing that Giroud is good at, like pass for days, really difficult to get the ball off from behind.
Yeah.
But you don't want him having to carry the ball. You don't want him having to kind of interlink a lot.
Yeah.
You want him to do that first action and get in good positions to score.
Like a good first action and good last action.
Yeah.
Right?
That's pretty much what you want from it.
Yeah. I think he did really well. He contributed to the goal. Like he got into that space, got that ball from Eza, held up the play. He looked around. It almost looked like he was panicked. I was like, okay, like what do I do now? And then thankfully Trossard was like, I'm open.
Yeah.
And then he got it over to Trossard. So I do think he's one of like having that performance. And this is the thing, right? I've said I feel like Arsenal's playing with 9 outfield players right now.
In what respect?
In that, in many of the previous games, either the team didn't pass to Gyökeres or he wasn't playing what he needed to be doing, was doing instructions. And so it felt like we were always down a man. And so in this game, actually, you have all 10 outfield players and Arsenal do well.
Yeah. So I'm looking at like a pass map right now, and he's still relatively isolated.
Yeah.
But what his job is essentially is, like I said, occupy that forward line.
Yeah.
Occupy the channels of the forward line. Ultimately, make centre backs worry about something, and the players in and around him will catch up to play and facilitate that for him.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's the way to use him, really. And I think you've seen that really, I'd say in the last couple of months, you guys have adjusted to how he approaches football a bit better, and you're seeing him produce.
Reason number 2, why Arsenal have won, and I don't gonna get too deep into this because I talked a lot about it earlier in the podcast, but just the rotations to get in now. In the attacking phase, the rotations on the right weren't really that significant in this game, which is what we're used to. But Arsenal made it work going to the left. Calafiori, as we talked about, like is more prolific than Capier in the attack phase of the game.
It's not even close. Yeah, I think they're very different types of football players.
Yeah.
I think Calafiori is like a lot better technically with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
So in those types of situations, when like him, Trossard, Rice are rotating, he can be touchline and he can be inverted much more effectively than in Capier for me. And you can see that, but this all makes more sense when you, again, the buzzword of the episode, when you have that right side isolation of Saka.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right side isolation of Saka, the overload on the left doesn't mean as much. It's quite frankly, it's not as dangerous as what Saka could do when he's isolated. It's kind of what I'm saying. But
I totally get it. And then apart from that, the main reason number 3, and this is a weird main reason, but I had to think about it. I was like, why? Substitutions.
Facts.
The substitutions were so crazy.
And actually, so you could say subs on your side were good.
Yeah.
Subs on their side were dropped.
Exactly.
You could see the difference in quality coming off of the bench.
Yeah.
There was a specific time, maybe you noted it down. Actually, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
When they replaced their attacking players, they replaced Griezmann and Alvarez at the same time.
At the same time.
And it murders the game for them.
Absolutely.
Completely kills the game.
Yeah.
Like,
but
they don't have any half space occupation anymore. The guys trying to get into half spaces are not made to do that. Sorloth is like a target man.
Yeah.
He's very different to what Julian Alvarez is going to do.
Exactly.
And you could see like those attacking combinations in the third phase for them kind of die off ultimately.
Yeah. After the subs in like the 64th minute, I think, when both of them come off, like every single ball is going long. Every single ball is going to Sorloth. They're trying to get to Sorloth. And like the game just looks, it's hard. It was hard for me to watch because what was happening in the game.
Yeah.
I'm sure for a neutral at that point, you're like, this is just shit football.
I think it's a fair point. What I would say though, and something that I definitely said in our chat, this is a UCL semifinal.
Yeah.
There is so much riding on this that the PSG Bayern first leg is a fucking outlier.
Yeah.
Like people don't play these games like that.
Yeah.
And you probably have you have Arsenal, who are, for me, and I've said this multiple times on these episodes, the best out of possession team in Europe.
Yeah.
They should rely on that.
Yeah.
They should fall back on that.
Yeah.
Atletico are known also to be a very good defensive team. And you're not going to get scintillating attacking football when there's so much on stake.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
much at stake most
Yeah.
of the time.
Yeah. And I think that kind of like ended the game, and that was like the last thing that kind of killed it off.
Yeah.
Those substitutions. And
Yeah.
what and a lot of it is like, what does Atleti have on its bench? And they didn't have as many options as Arsenal did.
Yeah.
Arsenal bring in 3 basically like for like.
Yep.
Then they put in another 6 for 6.
Yep.
Then they bring out their left wing and put in a pacey left wing who's
Yep.
there for the counters.
Yep.
At that point, like Atleti sees all these changes, like, okay, we just got to get the ball down the pitch.
Yeah, and so like I think the time when you make the Martinelli and Madueke subs, and the game is incredibly stretched.
Yeah.
And Arsenal in those types of situations, it's funny because like I think as a fan, you're watching those games and be like, they're so open. Play the ball forward. You're 2-1 up on aggregate. You could play the ball forward and try and hit them. You just don't want to encourage that type of ping pong. I think Wales managed the game in the last 15 was impeccable.
Yeah, I think it was impeccable in the game management. It was impeccable in what the bench was doing and getting everyone riled up.
But
the fans, like, I think I texted you and I was like, this is the loudest I've heard it. And yes, granted, it may not be Anfield, but it was just like, it was good to be able to sit down and like hear that on the TV and be like, I've never heard the club this loud.
Mate, if it's going to get loud, it's going to get loud now.
Yeah,
you know,
has
like,
to. Yeah,
this is like I've said again on these episodes, this is what you watch football for.
Yeah,
these types of games, the things that are at stake. If you're not going to get up now, you're never going to get up.
Yeah,
like I said, like really at the start of this episode too, I thought the fans in the Emirates were fantastic.
Yeah,
it's really loud all game, even in moments of like quiet for Arsenal.
Yeah,
it was still really loud.
Yeah,
and that's what you want, man. Like these big games.
And I know there's been a lot of discussion about like bring her dinner, bring her lunch, right? The things Arteta said, and you know, I was also like, yeah, the fans need to show up.
Yeah.
And you made a very good point about like, yeah, the players need to give something.
Yeah,
the fans to do something. They've been doing that the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
they definitely did it in this one. So
I agree.
Really good. But yeah, I had a couple of key moments, but I only want to talk about one key moment, and that's the goal. Like it comes at the right time, the 44th minute. It's a turning point of the game.
I'm gonna do lucky or good on it.
It's yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Bukayo Saka getting that goal to get you to the Champions League final, like star boy, star child.
Kind of star man now, dude. He's
star man. I mean, he's wearing the captain's band, so yeah, it has to be star.
Yeah.
Like it comes from a alignment breaking pass from Saliba to Gyökeres. When it happened, I was just like, wait, who passed that? And I had to like go to the replay and be like, oh, okay, that was Saliba passing the ball through Gyökeres. He's in space, and I think he's like, what do I do now? Because he doesn't see anyone, but then he sees the pass across. Trossard gets it. And in this goal, like Saka is staying on that back post, but making sure he's onside in case it comes loose. Trossard puts it maybe a little too close to the keeper. Keeper makes a decent save, and then it's swept up by Saka.
Really good intuition by Saka to stay on the shoulder of that defender. Shocking by Pubil to not understand what Trossard is going to do there.
Yeah,
Trossard wants to cut in on his strong foot.
Yeah.
He is so good at that. He's in a tight space, find a bit of space and just rifle a shot low. And I've seen some criticism of Oblak. The shot is so hard and low.
Oh, yeah.
That the fact that he gets a hand to it anyway is impressive.
Yes.
But to prevent that, you're going to have to try and save it in some really unique way to try and spray it wide. And it's smart from Saka to be there. For me, like, if we're going to answer the question of lucky or good, I think it's good for Saka to be in the position, but I think it's even better what Trossard does.
Yeah. Trossard has a 0.05 XG on that shot, and there's a 0.29 XGOT.
It's good. It's quadruple XGOT, basically.
Like, he does the work, and Saka is the kind of striker you need, the forward that you need to clean those kinds of things up. And he was, I think I would definitely say that it was, Saka was lucky to be in that position. He was good to not be offside.
Really smart.
But yeah, that was generated a lot from the kind of shot that Trossard made.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think there should have been a penalty in this game for Atletico? I asked a tough question.
Yeah, you do. I had to think about it. If that happened on my side in my box, I would probably be pretty upset about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, and I in my notes that I wrote about that, there were a lot of soft calls that the
Yeah,
ref didn't call earlier on in the game,
yeah.
which if I think about it and I'm thinking like, okay, if he's not going to call all these calls, he's not going to call these other calls. And so when he did make that call and think that Gabriel was fouled, what was he seeing? And he thought he saw a foul. He thought he saw a foul. VAR is supposed to come in and make sure that you don't make mistakes.
We're going to talk about VAR again in this next game.
Exactly. And did VAR do that in this game? I don't think so. Did they have to do it? I'm also kind of anti-VAR on some of these things.
Me too.
So yeah, like I much rather, if that was a penalty and VAR was like, that's a penalty, I couldn't say a lot because I couldn't tell if Gabriel was fouled or not defensively.
So I think that's fair. What I would say is I don't think Gabriel is fouled. I think Gabriel doesn't actually get to the ball. His foot is higher. And then what Calafiori does on Griezmann is like as much a penalty as you'll ever see.
Yeah.
For me, it should be a penalty.
Yeah.
I understand, like, on the balance of play, Arsenal are the much better team in this game for me. And I'm not saying, like, when people are going to say, oh, Arsenal didn't need to create very much, blah, blah, blah. For me, ultimately, when I look at the better team, I think execution of game plan and who did that better, it was Arsenal.
Yeah.
But I think that would have changed the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I was an Atleti fan, I'd feel a bit hard done by, but I'd also be looking internally to say we didn't do enough over the two legs to really hurt Arsenal enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the
That's
first
where it
leg, it was a pen for
Yeah.
Atleti. It was a pen for Arsenal as well.
Yeah.
And so in this game, Arsenal produced something. Atleti were not as solid defensively.
Yeah.
And the reason Arsenal won is because they were able to shake off whatever was haunting them in April. The team showed up, fans showed up, the team provided individual brilliance. The fans brought the backing. The goal was something that was fought for. And I think my biggest takeaway from this game was two of the most defensive teams in UCL squared up, and they had to find the goal to win.
Yeah,
The one who did find the goal won. Arsenal then kept their heads down, didn't concede a goal when they could have conceded goals. And I think what that really says is Arsenal has what it takes to do the grind
Yeah.
at this level now. They didn't before, and they finally are there. I think they deserve a place in the finals for what they've done. And if they want to prove that they are actually the best in Europe, they have to win.
They have to beat Paris.
They have to beat Paris.
Let's talk about Paris.
Let's talk about Paris.
Bayern Munich versus Paris Saint-Germain on the night ends 6-5 on aggregate. Kind of following the crazy first leg.
Yeah.
This game was nowhere near as entertaining, quite frankly. Ultimately, what this game comes down to is PSG's explosive counterattack. Really stuns Bayern at the start of the game. Bayern start kind of cold. Some beautiful football really leads to the goal from PSG. And that really is what dictates how the rest of the game goes.
Yeah.
I would say, like, overall, the game fills in. How would I describe it? Like, PSG are very happy to make it end to end, but it's end to end with risk mitigation.
Yeah.
They're not like trying to play through the line centrally very quickly. They're playing long a lot. They're playing long, very direct quickly because they know if they lose the ball, they have rest defense to deal with it. PSG are a possession-heavy team, and they completely give away possession in this game most of the time. Bayern's goal ultimately should have been, what are PSG doing out of possession, and how do we counteract that? And we'll get into whether I think they did a good job at that or not. Yeah, it's such a weird game for two teams that are like really commended for how they build up the ball. There was very little build up in this game. It was all very second, third phase football.
Yeah, it's really wild to look at. Like, if I was going to look at this game and analyze this game and say, like, okay, what does Bayern need to do to pull this back? I would say they cannot let PSG let an early goal, because what are they going to do as soon as that happens? You're up 2. They've learned from their last game, and they've done enough work from their last game to know, okay, that was a testing phase. This is how Bayern's going to play against us.
Yeah.
If we have a 2-goal lead, we sit back.
Yeah.
We let the game happen, and we just take care of the counters.
Yeah, you're completely right. And that's really how the game goes. Let's get into what the teams are doing out of possession then. So we'll start with the home team, Bayern. First phase, they constantly build in like a 4-2. What I noticed is they use Kimmich as like I call it like a midfield hinge. His aim is to come between the centre-backs, collect the ball, and then move the ball forward. Pavlovic then is used as almost like a controller and a tempo setter. He had the third most touches of any Bayern player. Most touches was Elise. Second most touches are Kimmich. Kimmich and Pavlovic are so heavily involved in how they build the ball and progress the ball. On that left side, Diaz is kind of used as almost like a deep progressor from those positions, exactly how we used him for Liverpool. He would come deep to pick up the ball, turn and basically run vertically up the line. He did it a bunch of times in this game. He's really, really effective at that. The main point really, again, I'm going to use the word, the main point is to get up there fast and isolate the fullback. He does that a few times. What he does, though, is we see some of the worst of Luis Diaz, in my opinion. And I am educated enough on Luis Diaz to say this. He holds the ball for too long at times and just doesn't release it. He holds. He cuts in, he cuts in. And by that time, there's no space for him to progress and he has to pass the ball back. We see that quite a lot in this game. Kane, it's funny because I hadn't watched Kane very much for this Bayern team. He drops so deep. He reminds me of this is a weird comp, but bear with me here. Wayne Rooney at the end of his career was dropping really deep into midfield from that position, essentially dictating from that position. And he does it quite effectively at times in this game. There are a few situations where he comes really deep into midfield when they're building in the first phase, and he can turn and essentially run towards their goal. That's their striker.
Yeah.
Really unique. You don't see it a lot, especially with someone who is as prolific as Harry Kane can be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But like I said, there wasn't a bunch of first phase build up. PSG were kind of happy to concede that for a lot of the time. Second, third phase build up, PSG, Bayern kind of line up in like a 3-1-6. The one is Pavlovic. The 3 is made by Kimmich being that kind of inch player. Something that I thought was really interesting about how they used Upamecano in possession is he almost is used as a bit of a floater. He doesn't need to be on that defensive line or part of that 3. They let him drop into midfield positions as well, just where it makes sense for him to pick up the ball kind of in free space. So I was really curious to see kind of how they deal with that. And essentially what they were doing, what Paris were doing is just saying, hey, if you want to pick up the ball there, we're going to let you pick up the ball there because you're not going to hurt us. What we're actually scared of is, and I'll get into the main tactical focus in a bit, we're scared of what's happening on our right side. So we're not going to bother with you very much. And ultimately it works throughout the whole of that game. Fullbacks used as rest defenders, kind of combiners in the second and third phase. They do sometimes invert, but I don't typically look at Konrad Laimer and Stanisic as effective inverted fullbacks. I think they're better rest defensive fullbacks, and I think that's exactly how Company uses them in this system. Again, the buzzword of this episode. The main isolator for them is Elise, and Elise is their main threat, ultimately. And the way PSG deal with this is impeccable. The whole of the game. It's just so well thought out. Fabian Ruiz plays on that left side to deal with him. And I'll show some pass maps of Bayern here. You can see kind of how Michael Elise is isolated. This is going to be image 1A. Michael Elise is up there, essentially is there to receive the ball from everyone over on that left side that is combining on that left side to create isolation. But what they do really well, PSG, is they just say to Fabian Ruiz, your job is making sure Mendes doesn't get beat on the inside and the outside. And that's how the game really pans out. Can we get Elise in space? Yes. How do they deal with Elise in space? Exactly like that. Bayern out of possession. So this game, the thing that's unique about both of these opponents is they're super aggressive man-to-man. Both of them are. Both defenses are played man-to-man. I would say there are later times in this game where PSG kind of implore a low mid block, but which is essentially man-oriented. But Bayern are super aggressive kind of man-to-man pressers. I'd say a majority of their pressures are out wide when either wingers drop deep or when fullbacks pick up the ball. Aside from that, they're not pressing the ball very much, which is kind of unique, actually, because they're not pressing centre-backs very much. But the reason that is because the centre-backs are not on the ball very much for PSG in this game. The goalkeeper is kicking it long basically all the time. And there are a few situations, actually, where the goalkeeper kicks it long out of play purposely to create that overload on Elise, giving the ball back to Bayern, but with the idea of, okay, if we can manage this situation and at least say again, buzzword of the episode, can't get that isolation, then we'll actually be kind of okay here. They were kind of saying to Diaz, we can handle you. We're scared of him. And that's basically how most of the game goes.
Yeah, I feel like with most of those like isolation work completed, it's kind of crazy to think that Bayern couldn't figure a way out of that. It shows that that's just not what they're built for, and they're not ready to solve that problem.
No, I think you're right.
And I think like what they should be able to do, especially because they have a manager who knows how to deal with that.
Yeah.
Coming from a league, playing as a captain in the league that has done that, playing against Pep, is he need to figure out how to solve that problem ahead of time.
Yeah. I think what you do in that scenario, at least for me, and fucking company has forgotten more about football than I know. But the way I would typically deal with that is create overloads on that side instead and use Diaz as the isolation, which they do quite well at times. But I don't think Diaz has his best game. Elise is also being criticized of not having his best game. But like when you're being doubled up on constantly and you can't create that isolation, he creates some decent opportunities by cutting inside, but they're all relatively low XG chances. So it's like, how do you adjust to that? And how do you get the most out of your attacking players? I think having a more mobile forward than Harry Kane would help in that scenario too. Not just Harry Kane, he's one of the best strikers in the world. But having someone who can come over to that right side or come over to that left side and help take some of the space away from you. The way City did it really well against Arsenal is they have the understanding of the fullback is going to invert beyond the box. So I'm going to take guys away from you because I'm going to basically run into the box.
Yeah.
What that does then is if they were doing that with like Lima on that right side, Lima would take Fabian Ruiz away because he has no choice to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They weren't doing that. And that's kind of why I said initially, I don't think these are the ideal fullbacks to have inverting to take men away.
Yeah. Yeah.
PSG in possession. So this is completely unlike most games PSG will play. I'm going to...
Sorry, real quick, just looking at the two different like pass maps, it's just wild.
Yeah, it's mad. PSG kind of in possession, the first phase, they hardly build up in this game. When they do, they build up with the three, as they typically do. Two centre-backs, one of the fullbacks. Fullbacks were different in this game. Ashraf Hakimi wasn't playing. It was Warren Zaire-Emery instead, playing at one of the fullback positions. And I really like why they did that because they're trying to deal with the overload on that side. And it worked impeccably. If you look at Warren Zaire-Emery's heat maps, he is almost touchline the whole of the game. They're playing as like a traditional right back, but he's combative and he deals with Diaz really well for me most of the game. Their whole aim in possession is to get the ball to Vitinha. Vitinha is their tempo setter, their ball progressor. What Vitinha does is he lets João Neves maraud. And João Neves is a wonderful marauding player. Really good box crasher, really good at moving the ball forward, typically right side dominant. But I think in this game, they don't need to build up through the thirds very regularly. Yeah. And that, like I said, that comes down to scoring that goal first and having that cushion, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think and more than that, like if you're looking at their overall positioning, like you have people who are overlapping on each other a lot, right? And what that tells me and what that shows me is that you have people slotting into positions over and over again and providing that additional security, whether you're on defense or that backup on an attack. I think they did that really, really well. You see it congested, which shows overall you are playing with so many people in one area that you can't counter the isolations.
Exactly. That's really what PSG's mantra.
Yeah.
You know? It's create confusion to then create isolation. It's kind of City have started doing a similar thing. They have that right side overload. They isolate Doku on the left as much as they possibly can. Semenyo is way less effective isolated than Doku is, and they know that, but they suck the play down that side to shift and then move the ball quickly to the left. And that's exactly what PSG do as well. In the second and third phase, this is by far where they play most of their game, PSG. They have almost, I think they have 35% possession on the day.
Yeah.
For PSG, that's none.
Yeah.
That's really low. But what I really like what they do here is they aim to get that hinge player on the ball. Vitinha, sometimes João Neves. Again, they love the rotations. They play in a 4-3-3, which They don't use two pivot players. So one of them goes and one of them stays. In this scenario, typically Vitinha was the one to drop. Their aim is to play forward quickly. And Kavicha, again, the buzzword on the episode, isolated on the left. If you look at the pass map, which is 1B, Kavicha is so isolated on that left-hand side because he is a fucking nightmare to deal with one-on-one. He can go inside, he can go outside, he can ghost, he can delay his runs. He's really difficult to deal with. And ultimately, what they're trying to do then is they're either trying to create isolation of Kavicha, but you can see on the pass map also how Dembele pulls to that right side to combine with Doué. And what Doué does a really good job at, it's occupying half spaces throughout most of this game. If you look at his heat map, he does a really good job of knowing when to stick wide and knowing when to transition into the center. Mm-hmm. And I can even recall a couple of times where players just fizz the ball into him in half spaces. And he's really, really effective at that. Width in this game for PSG was kind of weird to a degree. Mendes ultimately stays very, very wide because he's the one to deal with Elise. But that inside guy in Fabian Ruiz is the guy that's essentially helping him deal with Elise on that side. Warren Zaire-Emery is incredibly wide, as I touched on earlier. He's basically touchline most of the game. And I think that really helps them deal with the Luis Diaz threat as well.
Yeah, I feel like whenever you're working with like an attacking team and you're trying to hold a defense, your width just changes.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to have an adaptable width because if you have a good attacking team against you, what they're trying to do is they're trying to condense you and compress you as much as possible, whether it's through isolation or just overload.
Yeah. And it's a smart approach really, because what you're trying to do is nullify an overload, but again, deal with the isolation on the other side. And I think they do that impeccably throughout this game. The PSG out of possession, which is most of what they do in the game, they defend in a 4-3-3, kind of like a low or mid block, but it's completely man-oriented, which is really interesting to watch when teams are in a low block, and they're so good at it. Yeah. Like they know when to drop in, when to rotate, when to take your player, when to be positional instead of man-oriented. They do it really well throughout this game, and I'd say most of their pressures because of that, because they're on the back foot most of this game, come from like in the center of the pitch in front of their box or on either flank by their box, dealing with both the wingers. Ultimately, is a takeaway for this game. For me, like PSG can dig in, man. They're not flashy Barcelona. They can dig in.
Yeah.
They have the personnel to dig in. And you can see that at times this game. Let's talk about the main tactical battles then.
Yeah.
So there are two for me. The first one is how do PSG deal with Elise on that right side? And I've touched on that already. It's essentially Fabian Ruiz and Mendes. They double up on Elise for the entire game.
Yeah.
The fact that he's isolated rarely means he has combinations to play off because they don't have effective inverted fullbacks at attacking space. So he's basically on his own pretty much most of the time. And image 1C and 1D, they show Fabian Ruiz's and Mendes' average possessions. And you can see Fabian Ruiz, Ben, is a center midfielder, and he's basically playing as an auxiliary left back. That's just to deal with Elise, and it's incredibly effective. So 1C, 1D, look at those pass maps. Let me know what you guys think about that. And then the second one is a bit of analysis that I wanted to do of Harry Kane. So I noticed he kept dropping really deep to get the ball, but it's really difficult for a centre-back to understand, okay, when do I go with him? When can he be dangerous? Essentially, what Pacho decided to do, and if you look at 1E, it's basically a mirrored heat map, Pacho versus Kane. Kane was dropping into that right half space basically a bunch of times. Kane is we call him a penalty box striker, but he's also a facilitator. And what you can see him doing is, if you look at like the shared zones, Pacho is following him constantly into those dangerous areas. And that is the nature of being man-oriented. His main aim essentially is stop Kane from facing the goal in the second and third phase, and will be okay. He defends so aggressively against Harry Kane and essentially nullifies anything he can do creatively then.
Yeah, I feel like Harry Kane has been that player who's started dropping in a little bit more.
Yeah.
And as he's developed as a striker.
Yeah.
Because he does have decent pace, especially if you're playing these kinds of games. I think that man marking is exactly what you kind of need to do for a player like that.
And there was a scenario actually early on in the season. And do you know why they got the Blueprint Fund to do this? It's awesome.
Yeah.
Saliba man marks Harry Kane out of the game completely. And Saliba aren't too dissimilar. I'd say Saliba's a bit better on the ball, but they're both aggressive front foot defenders. And the whole aim was to stop Harry Kane picking up the ball and facing the goal. And they did really well at that.
Yeah.
Basically nullified him on the day.
Yeah.
He does get a consolation goal, but before that, he kind of doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that consolation goal comes way late.
Yeah. Let's talk about the key moment. So obviously, key moment, goal, 3rd minute, absolutely brutal from Bayern's perspective.
Yeah.
Gives PSG that 2-goal cushion, as I said, kind of allows them to sit back and absorb pressure.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone going into the second leg thought this second leg was going to play out this way. But for me, it just shows Enrique's tactical flexibility. Because of that 2-goal cushion, they know they're away from home. They don't need to create any dangerous situations anymore. And the threat they have on the counterattack keep Bayern very honest. And that's essentially how the game goes. That 3rd goal really dictates how that game goes. Another big one, 30th minute. João Neves, handball not given. Vitinha clears the ball and it essentially hits Neves' raised hand. For me, if you're looking at that in isolation, that is a stonewall penalty. His hand is definitely not in a natural position. The argument to be had is, should it be given as handball if the player hitting it off of his hand not only is not denying a goal scoring opportunity, they're not even possession of the ball, Bayern, but it's essentially a clearance that hits his hand. Should that be given as handball to you? It's really hard.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. I think, there's been clips going on about how that has been given handball and there's precedence for it.
Yeah.
And I would argue that if you're a defender who is trying to play the ball down the pitch and an attacker has his hand up, or sorry, not attacker, one of your own teammates has their hand up and it hits their hand, you hit the ball wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Like, you either shouldn't have hit it at your other teammate.
Yeah.
Or it should have, that's mainly it. Like,
It's
find a
tough,
better
isn't it?
pass,
For me,
better technique.
So do you look at it because Vitinha chose to do the wrong thing and Neves' hand is there, it should be given as handball?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's fair. For me, I look at it almost on the flip side. Bayern are creating no danger there. In fact, there's almost no one in the box for Bayern. Vitinha is just clearing the ball.
Yeah.
For me, it's happenstance. It could hit him in the back of the head and it would be the same thing.
Yeah.
I understand why Bayern are really mad about not getting that, because it does hit his hand when his hand is raised ultimately. But I think you could look at it both ways. And I don't think it's as cut and dry as people say it is.
In a game at this level, in any game, it would just be like, you and I are playing 7-a-side, right? And I kick the ball, your hand's up, you're not even looking at me, you're brushing your hair.
Yeah.
And it somehow hits your hand. And that hits your hand. Like, if we've given away a penalty at that moment, I'm like, what the fuck are we even here?
Yeah.
Like, this isn't football. This is like, what are we playing, right? So I very much think that, like, in that circumstance, it shouldn't be a handball. Now, if it's happening during a clearance, if you're being pressed, if it's during an active moment and you're trying to clear the ball and someone hits the hand and it could have hit any other part of your body and gone in for an own goal, then it could be a handball.
Yes. See, what makes it tough for me is the ball isn't played by a Bayern player.
Yeah.
They're not.
No, I'm talking about a defensive player.
Okay.
That's what I mean. Like, a defensive player is something like, I'm facing the goal. You're hitting the ball. Goal's to my left. The ball hits me in the chest and it goes this way and it hits my hand. Handball.
See, I think that's harsh, man.
I think it's harsh, but you as a clearance person, don't hit it towards your player.
Yeah.
Player who's chesting it down
You've
and
made
trying
a
to defend
stupid
the goal,
decision.
you made a stupid decision to put your hand up.
Yeah.
Like, you can still put your hand behind and try to, like, move it if you're,
I know what you're saying. I think it's a bit of a gray area with the rules. By the way, if there are listeners watching this that know there's a rule exists that prevents a handball being given in this scenario, please tell me. But I'm not aware of one. So it's kind of a really bizarre gray area. I understand why Bayern are going to be mad, but I would be kind of frustrated as PSG for that to be given as a handball. So I think it could go either way. The last key moment, I think, the biggest chance in the game, aside from the goal created by Bayern, is off of a really weird situation. Kimmich overhits a cross, like aimed towards the right side. Zaire Emery picks up the ball, I believe, and then Diaz manages to nick it, gets past Zaire Emery again, cuts it back for Elise. The chance is a 0.32 XG, and the block is sensational by Nuno Mendes. Like, without the block, that's a guaranteed goal. It's basically a chance in the middle of the 6-yard box. Does phenomenal job tracking him into the box and a great block. Without that block, that's 1-1, and it's a completely different game from there. Let's get into analysis of the goals. There are 2 goals in this game. The first one, like I said, is scored very early. I love this goal, Ben. This is like, for me, this is like an old Liverpool goal.
Yeah.
Honestly, it is. Fischer drops super deep, and because they're man-oriented, Upamecano has to chase it. He chases him super deep, and what he does is he knows the centre-back is essentially up his ass. He lays off the ball to Ruiz, he turns and he spins, and he attacks the space immediately. And Upamecano is caught in no man's land. You can tell Upamecano's like, fuck, I've let him go here.
Yeah.
But what Fischer does is he continues to run. Fabian Ruiz finds him over the top, and what I love about this goal is Dembele's intelligence. He sees Stanisic on the other side tracking, and Dembele is kind of like even keel with Stanisic up until they kind of get inside the box. Stanisic is like, okay, he's gonna go back post because Vita's just gonna cross the ball back. What he does is he moves forward and diagonally towards the penalty spot, and it's just an emphatic finish. Kind of hits it across himself, kind of with the inside of his left foot, top bins, almost hits top of the net, quite frankly. Great finish, great goal. That is like the type of offensive football that I want to watch.
Yeah.
A bunch of rotations. It's super fast on the counterattack. No pussyfooting around, man. Like, it's super direct football. XG of that is 0.36. XGOT is 0.39. Is that a lucky or a good goal?
It's good.
It's fucking good.
That's good.
It's a great
The
goal.
build-up is what makes it good.
Yes. Goal 2, which is Harry Kane.
Lucky.
See, let me talk about it. So Alphonso Davies comes on as a sub for Stanisic, and it makes me wonder, like, why the fuck isn't he starting the games? I understand he's had an injury. I fully accept that. But my issue with like the idea of you could create so much more chaos with Alphonso Davies on that left side, and you can see that when he comes on. Kimmich picks up the ball, kind of like on the edge of the box, gives it to Davis, kind of like occupying that left half space just outside the box, slips Kane through, who kind of has a step on Pacho in this scenario, hits it kind of in the only place he could be, hits the roof of the net, 0.16 XG, 0.61 XGOT. That's a great finish. Good. That's a good goal.
It's a good goal. I mean, it's an average Harry Kane goal, and I know like that sounds like it's shade, but Harry Kane has this way of finishing balls that just makes it
Rifles them.
Yeah, like he knows where to place the ball away from the keeper.
So
it's a good goal. Yeah.
Let's get on to like the kind of overall, I guess, like verdict of the game there. So I thought both teams had different objectives in this game, I would say. PSG were more successful in executing their game plan, like I touched on earlier. So I think they're the better team across this game. Biggest reason for victory, like I said, they catch Bayern early and are good enough to sit back on the lead. My main takeaway is PSG do a really good job in breaking up play in this game. If you watch the first 30, 40 minutes of the game, there's not a lot of play in open play, man. Like, there's not a lot of stuff happening. Soft fouls, kind of ruining any momentum Bayern has, especially in that first half. They're not pretty, but they can do the dirty stuff too. And that, to me, is the biggest takeaway. They're not just this pretty, offensive, fluid team. They can do the dirty shit as well. And I think that's what makes them such a well-rounded, good football team. I guess the question to ask to you, how do you feel about a matchup against PSG?
We played them twice last year. We're a different team this year. I'm excited for it. Bring it on.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a good game. I really hope it's a really good game of football.
What I want to see is both teams are going to be man-to-man in this game.
Yeah.
And I think that really benefits Arsenal, honestly.
Yeah.
I know they had problems with the physicality at times over the 2 legs last year. I'm really curious to see what tactical adjustments Luis Enrique makes to account for that. But I think it's going to be a great game. I've seen people like on socials basically say like, oh, PSG are like bona fide favorites. I think they're favorites, but bona fide, not the case whatsoever.
Yeah.
If I was to give it like a weight, I'd say like 60-40, 65-35.
I think that's what the predictions are right now. I think it's like 60-40, like 55-45 actually.
It's just Arsenal have to take their chances when they get them.
Yeah.
And find ways to hurt PSG. I'm curious to see how PSG set up out of possession. I really am.
Yeah.
How can they deal with what Arsenal do going forward? We've kind of seen a bit of a blueprint with this game, I think.
Yeah.
I think your isolation is also done on that right side. How do they deal with Saka and those types of scenarios? You play like a pivot and a 1, I think that changes how the midfield is orientated for PSG. I'm really looking forward to it. May 30th. It's a 9 a.m. game, but I cannot wait for it then.
Jack, where are you watching that game?
I have no idea yet. I might go to Bluefoot for it.
That'll be a good
Uh,
one. Yeah.
I know there's, we know a lot of Arsenal fans here, so I imagine they're going to want to watch it. If not, like, find a place to watch it. But this is like a must watch for me. I think this is the best team in possession and the best team out of possession. And I think this is like a genuine styles make fights type of fight.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait for it.
Yeah. 20 years since being in the final, and the final again, never have won. Going up against the defending champions, like Arsenal has everything to play for in this. PSG cannot let Arsenal get the first European champions that they've ever could get after being out of the competition for 20 years.
Yeah.
Not competition, at least out of the finals for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like a lot riding on both sides.
There's a lot. So like, there's a few things for PSG too. You know, if they win the Champions League here, they win 2 trebles back to back.
That's pretty crazy.
Not only that, but that gives Luis Enrique 3 trebles in his career.
Yeah.
I think PSG,
2 different teams. Yeah.
If PSG win this, time will look back on this PSG team and say they are genuinely one of the best teams of the 2000s. If Arsenal win this, then it lifts them to European cementation. You know what I mean? Like, we are the biggest team to not win it. Now we've won it. No one can talk to us anymore.
Yeah.
You're going to rock up to Stamford Bridge if you win it and say, European champions, we know who we are.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. That's been the Regista Football Podcast.
Cheers, y'all.